Okay. Right.
Martel Bivings, welcome to NORC Discussions. So
Thank you for having me.
you are the Republican candidate for Michigan's 13th district, which is basically the city of Detroit.
That is correct. The city of Detroit is the heart
That's the
of the
heart.
district. It is the nucleus. It connects us to the east part of Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods, and the west part, which is downriver cities, and then
Well, I'll
our
tell you what,
two.
in a minute, I want to show, I got a map. I got your
Okay.
website up and I'll show the map
Okay.
of your district because your
All
district
right.
covers really the business areas, some of the most important parts of Detroit right there.
It does.
But
Yes.
one thing, the reason why I wanted to get you on NORC Discussions is because I think you're being treated totally unfairly by the press and the party, or not the party, but the media in general. And one of the things that I like about the Republican Party compared to the Democrat Party is that we see people as individuals. We don't like the grouping and the labeling and all that the media does and the Democrat Party does. But there's so much hypocrisy involved in it. So, that's all fine unless you're a Republican. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to show you a few things that I have here. For example, here's a quote from Brenda Lawrence, who was a congressman from Michigan. She says,
Mhm.
I'm the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and I know there are often issues that directly impact us left on the table. If you don't have Black representation, you don't get a voice.
That's true. I agree with my
Yeah.
Democrat predecessor.
Right. So
Hopefully.
the Congressional Black Caucus, you think they would be endorsing you
You know what?
for that reason?
It's an idea. Maybe we could go seek their endorsement after the primary. And you know what? They should be nonpartisan. It really, what I'm learning as I go on this pursuit is you have a lot of entities that say they're nonpartisan, or they have language that
Right.
says they're nonpartisan. But then when it's time for the cookie to crumble, they shift and they become very partisan.
Look at this this is from Associated
Congressional
Press.
Black.
Yeah,
I
this
know.
is Associated Press, the AP. Detroit could be
All right.
without Black representation in Congress again with the top candidate off the ballot. This is when they took one of the Democrats off the ballot because of their nominating petition. Something that was wrong there. But in the whole article, and I send these usually to you when I see them, they never even mention your name as a candidate.
They don't. It speaks again to the partisan issue. Are we really nonpartisan, or are we partisan? If we are, just say that, and then people can know how to assess you and embrace you from what you say you are.
And the press is just so biased, and they're not nonpartisan. All that.
They are absolutely biased.
Here's Detroit News from April 19th. Now you're running against the incumbent in the area is Tanadar, Shriek Tanadar.
It is Tanadar.
And he says Tanadar's election marked the first time in nearly 70 years that the majority Black Detroit doesn't have a Black lawmaker representing the city in Congress after Lawrence retired. Well, and again, in this whole article, they never mentioned your name.
Yeah.
Nor do they mention that Detroiters had a choice.
They had a choice. And the thing is, media, news outlets, they are a vehicle that help raise a candidate's profile and get the information and their awareness out to their audience. And not mentioning me, most of the times it is detrimental to my pursuits.
It's almost as if they're deliberately trying to keep the people of Detroit from realizing they have a choice, that they do have a Black candidate available and all that. It's almost like it's a deliberate thing, just because you're a Republican. And it shows the hypocrisy of this whole grouping and labeling and all that that the media does and that the Democrat Party does.
Absolutely. One would think that. I agree with that. And that's why I'm literally here at the office with my communications director, which we did not have last cycle. So this is just definitely me learning from last mistakes from last cycle. We're calling this year, this is sophomore year. Last race was freshman year. We didn't know where the bathroom was or the hallways was
I
or
understand.
quick ways around campus. We know a little bit. We know a little bit more about campus this year.
Well, exactly. But you've come a long way. Now, let me just
Yeah,
also ask you. You got your
thank you. Appreciate that.
you got on the ballot. You got your nominating petitions all done. You collected all your
You know what?
signatures.
So happy.
Right. I mean, you're kind of freezing up a little bit there. I think.
I slightly have trust issues. So I do
Right
the
now,
work myself.
can you repeat that?
I
I think
had
your connection
maybe
sort of froze there a little bit. So
I said I do the work myself. I
you
did
got
my
enough signatures on your petition, right?
absolutely. I actually got the letter
Congratulations on that, because
yesterday.
so many
Thank you.
so many people fail at that. So how many signatures did you have to collect?
You know what? I submitted about a little bit north of 1,500 signatures
That's hard to
just
do.
so that I could arrive at 1,000 valid signatures. And I'm able to speak to all of my signatures except for 40. I had four of my friends. They went out and got signatures, and each page is 10 signatures a page. And they submitted and signed at the bottom. But all the other signatures, I was out here getting signatures. In fact, the first week after I submitted signature, I was kind of sick because that last week it was cold. So I'm outside for
Right.
6 hours in the cold just talking to people.
And what was that
It's
like?
really about doing the work.
What was that like? You went up to, you
It's
go up to
cool.
strange people in Detroit and you say, "I'm Martel Bivings. I'm running for Congress. Will you
No,
sign my And I'll bet they have no idea who you were or any of that stuff.
not at that moment. So I tried my hardest, and I think I did pretty well at it, at getting signatures out of all 20 cities. So one day I may spend 4 hours in Detroit. Maybe I'll spend the next 4 hours in Allen Park. Then maybe the next day I might start off in Taylor and Romulus. And it's the same thing. You just talk to people about their issues. And what I've learned is sometimes people sign my petition because I was the candidate. Once they found out that I was the candidate out asking to get signatures, they're like, wow, I respect that. You don't see that often. And I said, I appreciate it. So yeah, getting the signatures it is a haze. I respect the haze. I enjoy the haze. And just like all hazes, I'm past it. I'm on the other side of the haze right now. Thank God. All
Well,
right.
I brought up your
Look at that handsome fella
that's a handsome fella. And
right there.
this is your website, which is bivingsforcongress.com.
Bivingsforcongress.com.
And you can donate money to this through this
Yes.
website. And
Please go and donate.
and
Five,
since you're being treated so unfairly by the press, actually they're acting like you don't exist.
I do exist.
We got to get the word out, and you need donations so you can help get the word out. So that's what you
Yes.
do. I
Yes.
wanted to show, here's your map that shows
That
your congressional district.
that is that is the map.
And you can see that you've got the business area of Detroit and all that,
I do.
and really it's the main areas, some of them really the top parts of, and also it means that a lot of issues, since this is a border city, and I saw that in
Mhm.
your website you do talk about immigration and things like that are important things that you believe in for
Yes.
when you become a congressman. What kind of I know you
Yes,
mentioned the
sir.
issues in
Absolutely.
why don't we start off with, tell us about yourself. What got you motivated to do this whole thing? What got you motivated? How long have you been a Republican?
Well, you know what? Good question. I respect that. I've been a Republican probably since about official out the closet Republican since about 2017. I began the thought of becoming a Republican probably fresh sophomore year of college, 2008, an intro into political theory. But I never had access to other Republicans or to engage. Like I didn't know you, I didn't have the
Right.
opportunity to discourse about ideology or pursuits with other Republicans. So when you're black and you're in a black community and you talk about Republican ideas, it's kind of just like, oh, just stop talking or you don't know what you're talking about. And not until I started working honestly for business owners,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, many of whom were black, did I actually encounter other conservatives or other Republicans or other people who lean Republican. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. I too agree with that. And in 2016, I ran into this African American man. He had just been released from prison, and it was actually the August primary date,
Hmm.
and he hadn't voted yet. So I was taking him to vote, and I asked him who he was voting for, and he said I was voting for Donald Trump. And I said, wow, why? And he told me that Donald Trump was going to craft policies to help him get out the hood, and Hillary Clinton was going to craft policies to keep him in the hood. And I thought that was really an interesting perspective that I valued. And for the first time, I met another African American male or another African American person
Mhm.
who spoke clearly of their why, and I respected it and I value that. And so from 2016 on, I started to listen differently and I started to probe different conversations differently. And I found more African Americans who were conservative. And most of the time, Matt, they would say it and they would whisper it. Once we got to the point and they were comfortable enough with me, we would be talking at a regular tone, and then they would just go, and I'm like, why are you whispering? You don't have to whisper it. And
That's why I
it's
like the
interesting.
term you used when you came out of the closet as a Republican.
Yeah, it's a very
It's very
thing.
apropos. Like you're in a community that you're almost embarrassed to admit it. You're going to get shunned.
I was at last, I think it was last Tuesday or last Wednesday. I was at the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy annual event, and
And I want to ask you about
this
that too
young
when you
man,
get
black
done.
man, okay, this young man, black guy, he's 19 years old. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, how are you?" He introduced himself and he said, "Hey, this year is going to be my first year voting, and I'm going to be voting Republican." And the young lady that I was with, you could hear his feeling of trepidation, or you could hear his fear of saying that out loud to me. And she said, "Hey," and the young lady I was with, she is definitely Democrat, but she said to him, she said, "It's okay that you're Republican. I'm just happy you're active. I'm happy you're involved. Just know why you're voting that way, and it's fine. It's okay to be Republican." And I am I am the nose tackle for this region of being publicly out and saying I'm a Republican, and it's okay. I'm losing a lot of friends. If you go on my Facebook and you see some of my messages, people are commenting and asking me to remove them from the friends list, and I'm like, if you don't want to be on my friends list, just remove yourself. And it's just revealing, and it's
I
I'm
got
not
news for you. We
bothered
all
by it. I'm
go
not
through that.
frustrated.
I go through that a lot of. I got
Okay,
friends and
thank you.
family that are, that are
Okay.
Democrats. I hate to admit, so and they
That's
get
fair.
offended.
Same here. I'm in a group text with my uncle from Chicago, and then my grandfather's brother, my uncle who lives in Florida, and my uncle from Chicago is just really being messy because he just wants to see the dialogue. So he set the
Right.
dialogue up. I was able to take a picture with Trump, and my uncle from Chicago did a group text message with the picture, and here we are, 48 hours later, and we're still in dialogue. It is intense. So it's
So,
all
I
good.
want to
I'm
ask you.
okay with it
So,
though.
this past Sunday, President Trump, or excuse me, Saturday, President Trump was in town,
Yeah.
and you were instrumental in this. He went to the 180 Church, which is a
Yes.
predominantly black church in Detroit, in an area
Yep.
they refer
Yes,
to as
sir.
the Hood. And what was your connection? How did you were one
Mhm.
of the coordinators of that, weren't you?
Yeah, so my campaign worked with the former president's campaign on this event because I'm not pursuing office as a Republican in Detroit just to get my name out there or just to have fun. Working, like I said, from 2016 to now, I have interfaced with thousands of people, literally thousands, I mean, I have to get 1,000 to get on the ballot. So that's just 1,000. So I've interfaced with thousands of people, many of whom are African American, most of whom are Black men who lean conservative, who want to vote for Donald Trump. And I believe that there are enough of those type of people with those type of thoughts that can aid me in clinching the seat. And that's the real work. I don't have to, if I meet somebody and they say, oh man, I ain't voting Republican, oh man, I don't mess with Donald Trump. I don't really have to engage in dialogue because I know I am really comfortable in my thoughts to say there is someone out here that will vote for me. They just need to know I exist.
Right.
And when I meet those people, Matt, I'm telling you, they're excited. I have got told several times, like, man, I've been looking for you. Man, you're our guy. Man, I'm happy I met you. And I mean, it's like meeting your long lost brother. It's like we have deeply rooted conversations. And some of the times when I have these conversations, it is, for lack of a better word, the hood. And sometimes we say hood, and hood is really just a compound word with neighborhood. And we
Right.
just negated the word neighbor. But it's in, unfortunately, many times area where the poverty line is a little bit lower.
So, and I got the feeling of what you're talking about.
But when I'm there and I talk to people, yep,
I got the feeling of what you're talking about when I watched the video on YouTube of Donald Trump at that 180 church event that you helped coordinate, and the
yes.
people there, the other speakers were basically saying what you're saying about how important it is and how to get Trump elected, and they have to go against the currents in the water, so to speak, and it's really an
You
education
definitely
process,
have,
getting people to understand why it's important.
you got to be comfortable in your thoughts, have conviction in your thoughts, and you have to be okay with being alone, which I am.
Yep.
Because it's really interesting as you mentioned, you're a little bit older than me, 1 or 2 years,
Yeah, a
but
couple of years.
as you mentioned, a couple, as you mentioned, I'm not the only one who goes through this. So when one goes through this for the first time in his or her life, it's it's an eye-opening, it's awakening experience. Like, wow, you're not going to interface with me, or you're saying you want to be disfriend me because I think differently from you. So you're saying that we only could be cool if I 100% agree with everything you say. That's asinine. And people, we're mammals, so we're really not designed to be alone. So one has to
Right.
get comfortable with being alone in his or her thoughts, and that it is a process. And in 2022 it was a bit harder, and now I just kind of laugh at it. I'm like,
Hmm.
whatever, see you later. One lady on Facebook said, I'm not your friend no more. I had to literally go to her page and find out who she was. And when I went to her page, I still couldn't even find out how we were friends anyway. So I'm like, all right, cool, whoever you are, or however we became friends on Facebook.
Right.
See you later. Um, but my real friends, and even my family, we do have the uncomfortable conversation, but we're still able to have a drink together. We're still able to break bread. My uncle was here, and he's from Mississippi, and Mississippi byway through Chicago, so he's back and forth between Mississippi and Chicago. And I showed him the picture with myself and the former president. He said, "Well, I tell you this." Ask him to build a fence around Chicago. I said, okay, that's what I'll ask him to do. So
Yeah,
that
what's going on
that
in Chicago is just horrendous with the crime. And
and
it's funny how a lot of these big cities are trying to deny about all the crime they're having as a result of a lot of the open border and a lot of the other things going on, and the defunding the police and things that the Democrats have supported. And I
yeah,
and I would guess that crime is a major issue in your district, and as it is around the country.
man, somebody walked in my 2 weeks ago. I'm an avid bicyclist. 2 weeks ago, someone walked in my backyard, stole my bicycle, and I didn't realize it until the next day until I got ready to get on it. And
Somebody
everybody's like,
stole your bicycle?
somebody stole my bicycle from my backyard. And
Oh,
everybody said, did you lock it up? I'm like, it was in my backyard.
right.
It was in
It's in
my
your backyard.
backyard.
Why do you have
No,
to
I didn't
lock
lock
it?
it up.
Right.
Why do I have to lock it up? And then maybe 5 days later, that same guy came back and went into my garage and stole my kayak. Who's still? I'm like, so I'm like, dang, I gotta buy a bike and a kayak now. Who I didn't in this economy, I didn't want to allocate resources to that, but
Right.
that's
You've got an
kind of my
expensive
fun part. I
campaign
live
to
very
run. You
close to
don't
the
have
border.
money for
I went to look at some bikes the other day. A new road bike is probably going to cost me like between 750 to like 1,500. A new kayak is going to cost me 250. I'm not going to do an insurance claim for that. So
right.
it's
You'll
like
pay
this
more
is
in
great.
increased
So
premiums.
so it's is that and those are like those are first world issues. My bike and kayak are gone. No, but it's other things that are
Right.
happening throughout our district that are really devastating. I have a lot of African American men who I went to high school with who no longer live in the city. They've moved when they started their family, they've moved
Yep.
their kids out. They moved them up to West Bloomfield or to the Grosse Pointe Farms, or to Belleville. And it's like I want my kids to have something different than and I want them to have different type of education. And what happens is with many black men, we're kind of quiet in our political ideology and how we identify and who we'll vote for.
Yep.
So the masses automatically think there's a black man, he's a Democrat. But
Right.
if you really, really engage, you'll find some of us are Republican or lean conservatives. And I'm not
Yep.
gonna
They just
be
have to
naive.
be
There are some.
they have to be informed and educated and open-minded like you were. Getting back to the crime thing, I thought it was an interesting response when they at the event with President Trump at the Black church. One of the
Mhm.
questions that he was asked was, how are we going to keep the money with the black businesses and stuff when it's people are buying stuff and they're going elsewhere and his response was, you got to deal with the crime problem first, and that's what'll keep people from leaving and going elsewhere, as you just mentioned. So
Yeah, that is true. That does help. If a business owner and in my before I became a banker and got back on the campaign trail, I was a business liaison with the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, and one of their programs, or one of the city programs, which I don't really 100% agree with, is the green light program.
yep.
It's many businesses have a green light on them, and they have a designia that kind of communicates the green light. And what it is just it's a camera inside and outside of the property
Right.
where the city of Detroit police is kind of monitoring them, and if something happens, they get priority. They'll be there a little bit faster, and
Right.
that's an added financial burden to a business owner. That's not a free service. That's an added cost to doing business in the city, and it is nice. It does help curb crime. The cameras outside can kind of catch everything in the perimeter. So if something happens across the street, police could tap into that. But if you're an emerging entrepreneur
Right.
and you have to have this additional cost
Right.
just to do business, it's a hindrance. And a lot of my business owners did not care for the green light program because they feel like you have to pay an additional fee
Right.
for a service that you already should get.
Right.
So that does
But then again, if people feel
curb
safe,
crime.
if they feel safe going to your store or your gas station, you might get more business as a result. So
As
tell
a, as a
you,
result, I
you know
have
what,
one
you mentioned that
before
you're
we
a little bit
I have
of,
one.
just tell me a little bit about yourself. You're a banker. You're
I'm a former banker with First Independence Bank. That's
nice.
Michigan's only black-owned headquartered bank.
Hmm.
I was a business development banker, so I brought in the money.
So
That's
you
funny that I
understand
brought in the money,
economics
and
and
I'm
finance.
raising money. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
A
think
big
because
background in economics and finance.
that's unusual for somebody that could be a congressman to understand economics and finance. It seems like they don't seem to understand it. They don't seem to understand how excessive spending and borrowing can affect inflation, for
You know
example.
what? I remember my first intro to finance came from my fraternal grandfather, who retired from Farmer Jack, and he and my grandmother, they owned several homes. His first lesson to us was, you should never spend more money than you have coming in. That
Wow.
was
A
that was
congressman thinking that, it's amazing.
it's very, very simple economics. And right now, um, you get that. Right now I'm calling a lot of people who are donating, a lot of funders around the country, and sometimes I might call somebody from Maryland or I might call somebody from Texas, and they'll say, "Hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, but I got to take care of home first." And I understand that. That's a valid
Yep.
statement. And I think that's what America needs to start saying to some of our international allies. Like, I'm sorry about your struggle. I hate that you're going through this, but right now we got to take care of America first. And
We got to cut the spending.
we gotta cut the spend. It is not making any sense. And I keep always bringing it to the very simple fundamentals. I went to the store one day and I got a bag of chips and I got a chocolate crunch bar, and I gave the guy $5. And I was on the phone
Right.
and he gave me a receipt. I said, "Where's the change? What is going on here?" And it's like, and thankfully, I was just like, you know what? I had already opened the chips. I had already took a piece of the chocolate bar. I'm like, okay, $5 for a bag of chips and a chocolate bar. That's where we are. What happens when one has kids? What happens when one has a larger family? And it's just those economics are hurting
And
them.
the thing that bothers me, and as I say, a lot of these people in Congress or even Biden himself don't seem to understand what causes inflation. Maybe you can explain, since you're a banker, you understand finance, the relationship between the spending and borrowing and how that causes inflation.
So it's twofold. So it's the American dollar has lost its value, but we're still spending.
And that's
And
because of the
then
printing of
as we
money, right?
raise
Yeah.
the printing of money, and just like we're just using it with no real discipline.
Right.
And that affects how we spend globally, internationally, and that affects our local economy.
Yep. And I think inflation is probably in the top five list of election issues right now. And the
Oh,
Biden administration is in
absolutely.
total denial about it.
It's a video of Biden basically asking or someone asking him about it and the cost on people, and he basically says they got it.
Right.
So basically, so those are the things of that affects our inflation, and it just trickles down to businesses. It trickles down to local people. The businesses' products cost more, so if their products
Right.
cost more, they got to raise the price on their consumers, and it just really affects what one can do.
Well, I'll tell you, it
So
is
where there's no
refreshing to think that we could get a congressman that understands how inflation is caused and how the economy works, and it would be very refreshing to get you in there with that. Yeah,
I appreciate it, man.
I
Go
want
ahead.
to ask you about this quote on your that from you. They're coming here to keep us docile, keep us unaware, keep us simple and meek. This is a quote from yourself. Can you explain what you mean by this?
Absolutely. So what I meant by that is you have a lot of Democrats, specifically from the Biden-Harris administration, who's coming here and they're talking about what they've done for us or what they've done. I think I saw the other day when I was watching the finals a commercial where they said, climate change is so much better now, and black people are breathing. I'm like, get out of here. Are they really? Is that really what they're trying to spin? Like they sat in a room and said, hey, what can we do to help black people in America? Let's focus on climate change. Like you're not going to run into anybody black on the east side of Detroit and you ask them what are their top three issues. I promise you, I would drop out of this race if you ran into one person and said, and it's like climate change. That's my main focus right here. And to come to somebody and say that is just extremely insulting. I try to compare it to an analogy. If I come to your house randomly and you say, hey, Bivings, I got this apple pie here for you, and you give me a piece of it, I know that that apple pie wasn't for me. I just came over and you had apple pie and you
Right.
gave me a slice, which is okay. Say that. But when you tell me that the pie was for me, it's insulting. And the thing is I actually know that it's insulting. I just don't say anything. Opposed to you saying, "Hey Bivings," you could have called me last Saturday and said, "Hey Bivings, I know you like garbanzo bean flour, organic apples. I know you like agave compared to honey. I want to make you this apple pie. Do you think you got some time next Saturday to come pick it up?" That's a pie for me.
Yep.
And the Biden-Harris administration, they can't come in the city and say, "Hey, we thought of this policy that directly affects Black people because the data says these things are hurting you or making your pursuit of happiness more arduous." They can't say that. So when they say other things, it's just like, you just want to keep me docile, unaware, simple, and meek, going along with you. You just want me to be Democrat just because you say I'm Democrat. And it's people are starting to wake up, and they've been waking up slowly, including myself. Uh, 2000, this is not 2016. It's more people. It's not 2020. It's more people. It's not 2022. It's more people that are ready to go for Donald Trump
Let me ask you, so
and Republicans.
you talk about policies that would be designed to really help the community and all that. And this is something that President Trump did with opportunity zones. Can you explain
Mhm.
what the opportunity zone program was that President Trump created and how that helped Detroit and Black people?
So opportunity zones is areas of redevelopment where it's distress areas where one can develop them and have easier access to capital
Mhm.
to be able to do development deals. Whereas that person traditionally wouldn't be able to have funding to do that type of development deal in that zip code or that geographic area. That was specifically targeted for Black people, and it helped. It
Yeah.
helped emerging Black developers get opportunities. So if you go in I think it's like maybe the Fitzgerald neighborhood in Detroit, which is kind of like maybe like the McNichols Livernois area, 6 Mile.
Mhm.
It was an emerging Black developer who got that deal. I think he was able to get like maybe 200 properties, 200 properties to redevelop, which helped him. And it specifically helped him. So Donald Trump could speak directly to that. And the emerging Black developers know that that helped him. So again, back to the pie analogy, is like, hey, I got this pie for you. And they know that. It
Right.
specifically helped them.
Right.
And the not the Biden, the Donald Trump administration was able to see how that helped the local economy. And now he's coming back to be president. He's able to roll out more policies. And because Black men were able to tap into those, they remember. They don't really need no one to come and convince. When you go to your local Thanksgiving dinner or your 4th of July dinner, somebody is bringing the banging collard greens or the best
Yeah.
potato salad. Like you know that. You don't have to question it. They don't have to ask you about it. You know that. And Black men know how they felt and what they experienced under the Trump administration. And
And
they
it's
are
really
ready.
important. I guess, I mean, we're both tasked with the challenge of educating the community and people as to what President Trump did, how people flourished, and why the economy did better under him and his policies, and why he will do this again, and the importance of doing it. So we at NORC, that's what we're trying to do, is get that kind of messaging out and to support a guy like you that's got the courage to go into a predominantly Democrat area and
Man,
educate people.
man, you gotta be comfortable. You gotta be comfortable being in the fire. And is that and it's I'm really happy for my professional experiences up to this portion because it allows me to have a comfortable understanding of where to go to get the votes.
So, are you still in the banking business?
No, no, no. I stepped down from the bank right before I started getting sick. signatures, and I'm out here now. But
So
it's
you
crazy.
so you basically are all in on this campaign.
I am all in
You are
100%. What's crazy is when you're a banker, you don't just step down from being a banker and like your clients go away. People are still calling me like, "Hey, I need a mortgage," or "Hey, I need this for my commercial property," or "Hey, I need a small business loan." So the bank is, and I saw the president, I saw the CEO, and Mackinac said, "You guys owe me a check because you're still benefiting from my services because I'm still referring people to your bank." So yeah, I mean, like it's not a day that goes by I don't get at least 7 people calling me who have bank issues. So
what a great
I am,
background for being a congressman, because that's what you're going to be experiencing as a congressman. People calling you up, they need help with these different governmental agencies or the things or visas
yep,
or all this other stuff that comes up. So you have a great
mm,
background for being a congressman. Very it's a
yep.
customer service oriented position to be in.
I am learning that. I started my career out, and I think this is keen to that. Is I started my career out as a waiter in Washington D.C.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I feel like a waiter again. I feel like I am a waiter
So you
again.
lived in Washington D.C. That had to be an interesting experience for you.
Oh yeah, that's where I fell in love with the House of Representatives in the United States Senate. Is in Washington D.C. I went to Howard University, so some of my beginning internships were on the Hill, and
Okay.
just sitting in that chamber, just watching how America flows and goes, and the structure of us, and how any vote could affect the country or move the country forward or hold the country back. It was
So
always
you went to
intriguing to me.
Howard. What
Yep.
were they trying to indoctrinate you with Democrat theology and
I don't, I don't think so. I don't believe so. I've always been kind of like a free thinker.
right?
My mom said when I was 4 years old, I asked her, "Is Santa Claus and Jesus the same people? What's going on?"
You were
And
thinking,
it's
yeah.
okay to just, yeah. So that, and I was at 4, but no, it was actually at Howard again in sophomore year, 2008, ironically, that I began to develop the thought of going Republican. It was an intro to political theory when we started reviewing Plato's
Wow,
theory.
good for
I
you.
was like, and I remember I told some of my friends whom I have to beg right now to donate to me because we're still cool. We're all working in politics in some area of the country, so they know when you talk to those group of guys from Howard, they'll tell you I've been thinking this way since back then. When I first in 2022 and I came out, I'm running as a Republican. They're like, "You've been talking this way for some time now. It's interesting. You finally doing it." I'm like, "I am. I'm finally doing it."